You are sitting alone in a quiet room. No phone, no noise, no one asking anything of you. Just you and the silence. Now here is the real question. How does that feel? Because your honest answer to that question reveals more about who you are than any personality test ever could. The way you relate to solitude is not a random preference. It is a window directly into your inner world, your fears, your strength, your level of self-awareness, and the relationship you have with yourself. Today we are going to break it all down. Before we go further, let us make one important distinction. Solitude is not the same thing as loneliness. Loneliness is a wound. It is the painful feeling of being disconnected from others, of wanting connection and not having it. Solitude, on the other hand, is a choice. It is the intentional act of being alone with yourself, not because no one is around, but because you are choosing to be present with your own mind. Most people confuse the two. They avoid solitude because they mistake it for loneliness. But the people who understand the difference, who can sit alone without running from themselves, those people carry something rare. They carry self-possession. And the way a person responds to solitude tells us a great deal about where they are in life, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. Let us start with the person who cannot stand being alone. The moment the room goes quiet, they reach for their phone. The second they are alone, they need background noise, the show, a podcast, a call with someone, anyone. Now this is not a criticism. It is an observation, and it points to something specific. People who aggressively avoid solitude are often running from something inside themselves. It could be unprocessed emotions, grief, anxiety, anger, that feel manageable only when there is external distraction. It could be a voice in their head that becomes too loud when the world goes quiet. A voice that says they are not enough, that they have made mistakes, that something is wrong with them. Constant stimulation is armor. It keeps the inner world at a safe distance. There is also another layer here. Some people were raised in environments where being alone felt unsafe. Chaos was constant, and stillness meant something bad was coming. Over time, silence itself became a threat. The nervous system learned to associate quiet with danger. If you recognize yourself here, it does not mean you are broken. It means there is something inside you waiting to be faced. And the moment you stop running from it, something shifts. On the other end of the spectrum, there are people who need solitude the way other people need oxygen. These individuals, often introverts, often highly sensitive people, feel genuinely depleted by prolonged social interaction, no matter how much they enjoy it. They come home from a party or a long day with people and feel completely drained. But give them a quiet evening alone, and they slowly come back to life. This is not antisocial behavior. It is a neurological reality. Introverted brains process more information per second than extroverted ones, and social environments flood the system. Solitude is how they recalibrate. But there is something else happening with these people that goes beyond introversion. Many of them have developed a profound internal world. Because they have spent so much time alone, they have become comfortable with their own thoughts. They are often more self-aware than average. They reflect deeply. They notice things others miss. The risk for this type, however, is different. Solitude can become a hiding place. It can shift from restoration to avoidance, from healthy withdrawal to isolation. When solitude becomes the only place they feel safe, that is when it starts to become a limitation rather than a strength. The question to ask yourself is this: am I alone because I am recharging, or am I alone because connection feels too risky? Now let us talk about a specific kind of person, the person who is genuinely, peacefully comfortable with being alone. This is rarer than it sounds. Not someone who tolerates solitude, not someone who endures it, someone who actually enjoys it, who looks forward to quiet time, who can sit with their own thoughts without anxiety, without needing to fill every moment, without feeling like something is wrong because no one is around. What does this signal? First, it signals a high degree of self-awareness. You cannot be comfortable with your own company if you do not know yourself. People who enjoy solitude have typically done some level of inner work, consciously or not. They have sat with hard emotions. They have examined their patterns. They are not strangers to themselves. Second, it signals emotional regulation. The ability to be alone without becoming destabilized suggests a nervous system that is relatively well organized. You do not need constant external validation to feel okay. Your sense of self does not collapse when no one is watching. Third, and this is subtle, people who are comfortable with solitude tend to be better in relationships. This sounds counterintuitive, but it makes complete sense. When you do not need someone else to fill a void inside you, you can choose connection from a place of genuine desire rather than dependency. You bring a whole person to the relationship, not a half person looking to be completed. Solitude, in this sense, is the training ground for intimacy. There is one more dimension to this that rarely gets enough attention. Almost every major creative breakthrough in history happened in solitude. Newton formulating the laws of motion, Darwin walking alone on his thinking path every single day, Einstein spending hours in quiet thought, writers, artists, musicians across centuries and cultures. The pattern repeats. Deep creative work requires deep aloneness. Why? Because creativity is not a social act. The creative mind needs to drop below the surface of ordinary thinking, and it cannot do that with constant stimulation or the presence of other people's expectations. Solitude creates the conditions for original thought to emerge. If you are someone who does your best thinking alone, who comes up with ideas in the shower or on long walks or in the silence before sleep, this is not a quirk. This is your mind operating at its highest level. The people who dismiss solitude as unproductive are often the people whose best ideas never quite make it to the surface. They are always too busy, too surrounded, too stimulated for anything original to break through. Across virtually every wisdom tradition in the world, whether we are talking about Buddhist meditation, Sufi retreat, Christian contemplation, or Stoic reflection, solitude is treated as essential to spiritual growth. Why would that be? Because the deepest parts of a human being cannot be accessed in noise. The questions that actually matter: who am I? What do I value? Am I living in alignment with what I believe? These questions require silence to even be heard, let alone answered. The person who never spends time alone never truly confronts themselves. They know how they behave in front of others. They know the version of themselves that exists in social contexts, but they do not know what lives underneath. Solitude is where you meet yourself without the costume. So what do we do with all of this? If you are someone who avoids solitude, start small. 10 minutes a day. No phone. No podcast. Just you and whatever comes up. Sit with it. You do not have to fix anything or figure anything out. Just practice being present with yourself without running. If you are someone who hides in solitude, make one move toward connection this week. Not because solitude is wrong, but because a life lived entirely inward eventually becomes a life lived entirely in your head. Connection is where you test whether the person you are alone is the person you want to be with others. And if you are already someone who has a healthy relationship with solitude, protect it. In a world that never stops demanding your attention, the ability to be alone with yourself is a form of resistance. It is also, quietly, a form of power. The way you relate to solitude is not fixed. It can change. And as it changes, you change. Because at the end of the day, the most important relationship in your life is not with a partner, a friend, or a parent. It is with yourself. And the only place that relationship is ever truly built is in the quiet. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it.